Hi, this is Sandy. It's the month of October, and we are still working on all of our Halloween images and how to draw them. So, today we're going to concentrate on witches and bats and cats and cauldrons. All the fun things that I'm going to give you the tools so that you can be able to create your own Halloween picture. So let's get started. Okay, so this time we're going to need our pencil, and you're going to need your colored pencils or your pastel chalk pencils, or you might even want to use crayons or markers. It's totally up to you how you want to make your things, your creations. But first, we're going to start out with looking at a cat. You all think you know how to draw a cat, but when you draw the cat, it never really turns out exactly like you want it to turn out. So I'm going to use my nifty little program here, and I've loaded up just a BMP file from the internet on a black cat. It could be any color cat really, but I chose black. But remember when we first started this, I decided that I wanted to show you how to draw things, but you had to look for the shapes. So let's go ahead and let's look for a shape. Let's look for a body shape right here. Some of you might know what I'm drawing. It's called a parallelogram. And it's a rectangle that leans on its side. So the top and the bottom are even, are the same distance apart, and the sides are same distance apart. It's sort of like you might think of a rectangle, only it's just lopsided. And next, let's look at the head. That, I could say, is a square. Did my head fit inside of my square completely? Yes. The ears did not, but you all know that little figure here is a triangle. But look where it is on our square. It's right at the edge. Okay, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to draw a rectangle, sort of. That'll be our leg. Our tail, we can always curly cue it around any way we want to. Now we have to get this here onto our paper. So this is going to be up on your screen for you to be able to look at it. And it's over there for me to be able to look at. And I'm going to start with my cat, and I'm going to put it over here. Remember, I said that I'm going to have a square for the head. And a square means all sides are equal. And then I went with a parallelogram for my body. But how long is that parallelogram? Let's look back at our figure here. And it is probably, if I take my pencil, I go 1, 2, 3. It's probably 3 squares long. So when I make this, I'm going to go looking for my mark. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. So now I've got the proportions right, the head to the body. Now that is a parallelogram, and it's going to have a straight line out to here. And this line here is going to be the same distance between here as it is here. Okay, now I've got to get that rectangle here, and it was about half of this length. Okay, now let's go for the ears. The ears, if we measure them, are maybe 1/2 of the square. So they're about that big. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to put there and there. And the ears were triangles, but they came straight up off of the side of the square and then came out in the middle. This is important because we want the ears to be the same size. Otherwise, our cat would be very lopsided. Okay, now we're going to go back to our picture and we're going to look. It's got a hump here about 1/3 of the way up, and it goes all the way up to the top. So 1/3 of the way up is about here. So the cat's back comes like that, and then he comes around and starts his tail. Now let's look at the other side. We've got a little bit of it comes out to the square right here and goes back in. It's his chest. And then it gently curves down. Now, let's look at the size of the head, because if the head isn't on, nothing's going to look right. It comes in to about here. So it'll come from there up here and then meet the top. Okay? Now we've got this foot to get on. It's only about half the size, really. And it comes down, and then he has his paw. Now let's also look at this. How much of that paw is actually flat against the table? Just a little sliver of it. So when we draw our paw, we don't want it to go like this. We want it to come down gently and come up. So just that little bitty part there is touching. Okay, then we're going to get the tail on. And you can make the tail curve anywhere you want. Now, if I were smart, I would have made light pencil marks for my box so that when I erase the boxes that I made myself, they're all going to erase very nicely. If I drew too dark, there's no way these boxes are going to erase nice. So when you draw, remember that the boxes that you make, the markings that you make to start this, better be lighter. Okay, I can see down here one thing I forgot to draw, and that was the other paw. So I'm going to look at my picture here, and there's a little part that comes out right here. That's his other paw on his other side. And this has a slight curve. Now I can come in and I can make any changes that I need to. But notice, I have drawn a cat. This cat can be any color. I can make this the back of his head. You'll never see an eye. Or I can put eyes on him and a nose and a mouth. It's up to you how you decorate your cat. But I've given you the tools to draw a cat in your picture. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, so we've drawn our cat. Next thing we're going to draw is our witch. Now, I'm drawing things now that you probably have never really seen in real life. I've never seen a witch on a broom. I've seen pictures of cartoons of a witch on the broom, but face it, witches aren't on brooms. So it's kind of hard to take a picture and draw from it. So here is a picture that I've pulled off the internet again. And let's just talk about it. Let's talk about the shapes that we're going to see. This is a very skinny witch. If I drew a witch, she'd be fat. But let's start with the broom. There's a broom. Goes all the way through here. And then at the end, it comes out. That's pretty easy. But the hard thing about this is our witch has to fit on this broom in proportion. So let's figure out how to do it. Here is a triangle that's sitting on top of the broom. And I'm going to go ahead and draw that right through. So I've got a triangle. Now we need another shape for the head. Well, really, a circle is a circle. So let's make the circle for the head. Then we need another shape for the legs. Remember our parallelogram? The tops and the bottom are parallel, and then the sides are the same distance apart. So that's what we're drawing. Then if your witch has a hat, everybody knows that witches' hats are triangles. So let's make a triangle. All right? The rest is just decorations. So let's see if we can't get our witch drawn. So I'm going to put mine aside, and if I think I need to have it out for you, I'll get it. But let's start out. And remember, I'm drawing very dark boxes so that you can see them. Without the dark boxes to stay in line, a lot of times when we're first drawing things, we can't figure it out. Okay, let's start with the broom, because that's what we started with. The broom was at an angle, and it told us how big our witch was going to have to be on it. So here's our broom at an angle. I'm just making a stick. I'm not making the actual broom right now. This was going to be our straw for our broom. So I'm going to just make a note. I know it's there. My witch can't be down below the straw. Okay, then I'm going to put the triangle on. Oh, my triangle got so big that I almost ran out of broom. So let's give that broom a little bit extra growing room. Then I put the circle on, and I put it on right here on that part of my triangle. Okay, now I have a parallelogram. It comes in here and here. And it has the same line shape as this. It isn't a square. It's on an angle. Okay, I've got my basic shapes drawn in, except I don't have the triangle for the hat. And my triangle for the hat came over here because my cat's tail got in the way. So let's try it again. Here's the triangle for the hat. All right, this is doable. Let's look at our picture. Her arm is inside of this and comes out a little bit right there for her hand. Her hand is going around that broom to hold it, okay? So I made a C, and then I gave her one thumb and just an indication of the fingers. I didn't really draw the fingers. Okay, now we've got to put her back on here. So her back, our witch had a little hump in her back. Then she has her bottom that's sitting right there on the broom. And she's got one leg that's going to come up and around. And she's got this dress on that's blowing. Okay? Now, this is her right arm. It's coming down. And depending on how fat you make your pumpkin, or not your pumpkin, your witch, you're either going to see her other arm or you're not going to see her arm. My witch is really pretty chunky. So I'm going to make her there, and we're going to see just a little indication of her arm. Then her leg is going to come all the way up here where she's sitting. It's kind of hard to see what's going on now because we got to get rid of this broom line. Okay, we can get rid of this parallelogram line. Okay, my witch is starting to look like a witch. How about yours? On the other side, see, this is just her leg, and the dress is flowing around it. Well, on the other side, she might have more dress back there, and it might be a shade darker, so you could shade it a little bit. All right, she also has these pointy little shoes, and I'm just going to put it out like that. Basically, your hand is the size of your foot. So we're just going to go with that general rule right there on how big. Okay, I've got my witch. I've got my broom, but let's make it more of a broom. This broom has to fill out that C, this C here, where I put her hand. So it's going to come in here, and her thumb is going to curl down over it. And then it's going to go all the way through, and there's the size of the broom. Depending on what kind of broom you have, sometimes you'll have a broom with little straw strands up there, and then it has a thing where they tied it, and then it has the straw coming down here. You don't have to draw it all. Just a couple lines will tell you that's a broom, and it's got straw. Okay, let's look at the face. The wind is blowing this way because she's moving that way. So her hair is probably going to be flying all over. And now I've got to get rid of those lines underneath it. Okay, there's her hair, and maybe she's got bangs that are growing and they're blowing that way. So we'll put it that way. Now, you know, witches probably aren't very pretty. They're always got this great big old nose and these teeth and this mouth that's not very flattering. And maybe she only has one or two teeth. Okay. Now, I didn't put any facial expression on there. I didn't give her eyes or anything that you have to worry about drawing eyes. I just gave her hair, a big nose, and a couple teeth. Okay, this is wrong. This thumb would be folded over, and the fingers would come up here and grab it. That looks better. Got to think how it's going to look if you're holding onto a broom. Okay, now let's look at this hat. We can come in and we can make it kind of wonky here and there, because maybe she sat on the hat or the cat sat on the hat. That would be even better. Now the hat has a brim, and you can't really see it from the side, but what you can see is just the rims. Okay, we can't see the hair through that though. And maybe the witch's hat has color of ribbon. Okay. There's our witch. We have drawn a witch. You should be real proud of yourself. Now, what's next? I think it's called a bat. So let's get ready to draw some bats. Okay, here's our bat. It's all in here. I wanted to do this because a lot of times we don't really know what a bat looks like. A bat isn't something that we have in our everyday sight. They're there, but we don't see them. So let's really look at a bat. Here's his head and his body right here. I didn't realize that that a bat had that large of a head and that large of a body. And he's got pointy ears. But look at the feet on this bat. They make claws. I didn't realize that. But a bat, when it sleeps at night, will put those claws on something, wrap it around it, and it will go to sleep like that. Now let's look at the hands. Well, looks to me like this bat has an elbow right there and right there. And up here, looks like a wrist. And then right here and here and here, looks like fingers. But let's look at the shape. From the center, it goes straight and straight. And then at the feet, it gives this curved line. That's pretty interesting because I really have never studied bats. Let's look at this other side. What is this? If this is fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers, this would be the thumb. And it looks to me like that thumb is able to hang on to something. So when we draw our bats, we've got to remember that. They've got elbows, they've got wrists, they've got thumbs, and they've got feet. And here's his other thumb. Okay, so now we've studied a bat. How are we going to draw it? Okay, I switched bats now. This is another one, but it's a little easier to see, to draw. Okay, remember I said this is his elbow. These are his legs and his feet. Looks like he has a tail too. Then each of these fingers will go down to make part of that bottom that curves. There's his thumb. There's his thumb. So each of these lines has a purpose. The purpose will give us this nice little half curve. This is his body. So when we draw this bat, he's going to have 4 little curves in order to make his wing. And then up here is just connecting it. So if we take away the picture underneath and all we see is what we drew, this is what a bat looks like. Not real hard, but at least now you know why a bat looks the way it does. Okay, the other thing is, people usually draw black bats because they come out at night. And in the middle of the night, there's not much you can see, so it's going to be dark. So our bats are going to be dark, and usually silhouettes because we can't have light shining on them. Bats don't fly in the daytime because they don't like the light. So I'm going to get back to my picture. And I'm going to take off my lines. And let's draw this bat right here. This is the one we're going to draw. So you've got the picture put up on your screen. And I've got it on mine over here. And remember when I said that the bat had a center? His body was the center. So let's just draw the body. And there's his 2 triangle ears. And then he has this arm that comes out like that. And that's his elbow. And then he has fingers that start 1, 2, 3. And maybe over here, he's got it coming out. Here's his elbow. And it's going to go 1, 2, 3. The 4th one is just a little bit up here. We really don't see much of it. Okay, so I've got the basic shape drawn. I'm facing this way, so my body has to finish up down here. Okay, that's where the legs are. And now I'm going to make spider web type connections. There's our bat. You can do anything you want with the bat. You can decorate him all you want, or you can just leave him black in your picture. Now we're going to go on to what's called a cauldron. Okay, a cauldron is a pot that can be cooked over an open fire. And the cauldron here is definitely a witch's brew. Let's talk about it. We have almost a circle here. The same angle as the bottom is the middle, or is the top. So then we can get to see what's inside of it. Now this one here it's not sitting on the ground, which is good. We can get another cauldron. And this one, they've got a fire underneath it, and they've got rocks keeping the fire in. So if you build a campfire, you know you've got to keep your fire contained, and they've contained it with rocks. We could draw something like that. But I really want to just draw a cauldron. This is a cauldron that sits up. It's got a stand, but it's just a circle. Okay, here's what we're going to draw right here. Here's our cauldron. So you've got the picture up, and I don't think we need to draw this one out, the shapes. But let's go ahead and do it. And I'm going to put it right here. It's got a half circle. Then on the side, it has cup handles. And the same circle here is up here to give us a lid. And then it kind of flattened out in the back. It's up to you at this point. Do you want a lid on your pot? If you want a lid on your pot, you just make it a lid. If you don't, and you want stuff bubbling inside of it, this is where you will put it in. Okay, our cauldron has little legs. Notice that the two front legs are sitting in the front and basically come down the same amount. And the back leg here, to give it perspective, everything got smaller. Okay, our cauldron also had a handle. So we got to put a handle around it. Now, I have given you the tools to draw all kinds of Halloween stuff. I want to see some Halloween drawings because next week we're going to be doing our drawing on a t-shirt. And then after that, we're going to put it all together and we're going to make a picture of a Halloween setting. But I'd like to see what you liked best. So, start getting to work on it.